So there's all kinds of snacks and goodies. One of my favorite ones was this. They are Princess Bride playing cards. So I know I see Ellen's okay. No, but I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Princess Bride, but it is hysterical. They've got all kinds of different characters. Like one of the jokers is the rodents of unusual size. Yeah, they're really cool. So no, you cannot have them, Rosses. Anyway, now there's like astronaut ice cream sandwich, Dr. Pepper cotton candy, all this other stuff. So, but one of the things that I wanted to show you guys that's just like really interesting is cheddar cheese larvae. What? They call it larvettes. So I was like, is this for real? And it is indeed for real. So, but, you know, I'm the one who got the gift, but I wasn't willing. Okay, I wasn't willing. But I want to show you guys this video clip real quick because it's very surprising.
Here. So, what are you eating, Joseph?
Here's a brain child. Here, try that.
Okay.
You're not afraid at all. That's good.
Not bad.
Can I try it?
So you'll
Go ahead,
eat
Nora.
cheddar-covered larva. She can't.
Oh, she can't.
Cheddar-covered larva, but you won't eat chili. You'll eat cheese-covered bugs. Pop another one in.
My turn.
Oh, you try it. Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, I see.
It
what you
feels
do.
weird.
Go ahead. Pop it in. Just toss it back.
Pop it.
Ooh, I want to try.
All right, Joe, let's see you pop another one.
They look gross.
Can.
And they feel gross.
Come on.
Guys, easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Oh, no, I'm not eating that.
I still haven't tried them yet, and I'm not going to do it in front of you guys. So just so you know. Ugh. Oh yeah, I was playing with this in the background too. This is like I don't know if it's going to work on the. Yeah, okay. So like it's like you ever have those like plastic or those rubber things that you fold down and they shoot up? Well, this is like one that you spin. I don't know, maybe it'll work. Oh. So. Yeah, it kept me busy for like an hour. If that tells you anything about what entertains me. So, yeah. Fantastic. It's awesome being a dad. They got me just so that I can deal with all the things I'm going to be eating over the next couple of days. They did buy me some other stuff, including workout equipment. I don't know what you're trying to say, Kelly, but I don't know. Maybe she's just getting that for me so that I can eat more gluten and then work it off, and then eat more gluten and then work it. Anyway, like I said, being a dad is awesome. So I want to talk to you guys. I'm gonna move this over here. I'm gonna talk to you guys about the wonderful thing that a dad is. And, you know, I have seen in culture that men, in a general term, have not gotten a very fair shake. And here's the truth, though. In recent years, especially in the recent year that just passed, like some of the people that we held in high regard, some of the people that we thought were great men and great fathers, even fathers that we looked up to on television sitcoms and everything, that we thought stood as someone who stepped out from the norm, as men who did things that were different. Because, and here's the truth, like a lot of the sitcoms and television shows, like dads are just idiots in those shows. But what's been coming out into the open, though, is there's been a lot of men who have been taken advantage of, those who are around them when they have money or they have prominence or power. And it's really began to shine a light on the things that are pretty not okay. But you know, when that light gets shined on that, sometimes a lot of times the things that men are doing right, those who are standing out among all the sinfulness in our world, are not getting noticed. They're not getting the attention they need. And this is really my confident belief. I am confident that we should begin to push aside the stereotypes and believe, at least as far as I believe, and I think others have began to appreciate the fact that there's like a resurgence in men that respect, in fathers that stand with their families, in fathers that are doing something, that are making a difference, that are actually being what God designed man to be. And it's been wonderful to watch. I've heard different stories and different things to express that, but I really want to be that standout father. And I really want to encourage other fathers to be those standout fathers. I really want to encourage men to be who they are supposed to be driven by what is real, to be driven by the real definition that God places in Scripture. I want them to follow that as opposed to following their own impulses, or more bluntly, their own lusts. And so just a few things that I threw out there in my thoughts. A real man is honest, dates his wife, takes care of his kids, gives up his seat for a woman, tells the worst truth instead of the best lie. He's a listener. He reads. He is well-groomed. He is secure enough to have her stand in the limelight. He smiles and is romantic. He minds his manners. He holds doors open, is trustworthy. He's on time. He loves and respects. He makes mistakes, and he doesn't hold mistakes of another against them. He forgives. He loves Jesus. He is more than religious. He's understanding, and he doesn't know everything. He makes an effort to learn something and says what he feels. And he loves big. He loves hard. And so these are men that will meet the challenge. I wrote another list of things that come to my mind right away. I don't know if you guys saw the pictures. I don't want to praise this because it was her idea. She got me she gave me an invitation and everything. But a couple of weeks ago, I had a tea party with my youngest, Nora, and you know, we sat down and there was like sugar cubes and tea, and she had like this tea, and she put like what looked like 15 sugar cubes in it, and then she added almond milk, and then she added a little bit of the pink lemonade or whatever that we had there as well. And I was thinking, is that any good? And she said it was delicious. And then we took a walk around, and I was asking her different questions, like what's your favorite color, what's your favorite this and that, and I got to what's your favorite animal, and of course she said a unicorn. I wasn't about to tell her that I don't think unicorns exist. I don't know. And then I was like, what do you think of Jesus? And she said, he's good. It's like, awesome. And so every night that we do devotions, I have the opportunity to speak into the kids' lives, and it's just wonderful to see them mature. And as a father, one of the best things that you can do is to point them to the greatest father, because you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to have enough. You're never going to be able to meet the highest standard that is necessary. You're going to fail, and that's one of the things that's been hardest for me, is to admit when I've done something wrong, even if that means floating down a rapids the wrong way, right, Grace? We went rafting, and I jumped in the water. They said we could jump in the water, and you're supposed to have your feet towards, like, going down, and I decided I was going to go backwards, and there was a lot of water in my face, and she's, like, shouting, "You're doing it wrong, Dad! You're doing it wrong!" I couldn't hear anything. But I'm still alive, so it's all good. This coming from the guy who's been a trained lifeguard. Anyway, so these are men. Here's some heroic men, okay? Heroic men massage their wife's feet without expectations. Heroic men, did I hear an amen? Okay. Heroic men tell their wife to go nap when they are overwhelmed. Heroic men dance with their wife and their kids. Heroic men take care of children even when those children aren't his. Heroic men aren't afraid to go grocery shopping. Heroic men will buy the embarrassing things when they are needed. Heroic men will play Barbie Dreamhouse with their daughters. Heroic men get on the floor and play with Legos. That's really cool, by the way. This one is really hard for me, this next one, okay? Heroic men aren't afraid of glitter. I hate glitter. Heroic men give their teenage children piggyback rides. Heroic men watch kids' movies over and over and over and over and over. Heroic men, did you notice that I didn't stop that over and over? Heroic men do their best to answer the most absurd of questions, even when they have to ask the internet, which is not always clear. Heroic men play with toys and spend time with their kids. Ultimately, though, the forefront, heroic men love Jesus and love like Jesus. You know, picking up the Ken doll or picking up the Lego minifigures or playing with the glitter to make cards and stuff like that may not appear to be the most heroic decisions there are, but I'm telling you, it makes a statement. It is powerful. It will begin to give you avenues into your children's lives that will change them for eternity. At least that's the hope. You build in them, you invest in them, you give them as much as you possibly can, pointing them to God and believing and hoping that as you teach them how to pray, as you teach them how to read the Bible, as you teach them to be connected to the church and connected to what God has intended for them, you have hope and confidence that as you give them to Him every single day, as you give them to Him, that it will make a huge difference in their life. In their life. I want to read you guys 1 Corinthians 13. Now, this is something that applies to all of us. This is something that affects all of us. And just so I say it, shout out to you single moms out there. I know it's not easy, okay? And I know it's difficult. And I know some of the dads aren't here today, but shout out to the single dads as well. But in 1 Corinthians 13, this is a beautiful set of words. I'll hone in on 7 and 8, but I want to read through the whole chapter. It says, "If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not love, I have become a sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not love, I am nothing. If I give all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profits me nothing." You see, in verse 4 it says, "Love suffers long and it is kind. Love envies not. Love flaunts not itself and is not puffed up. It does not behave itself improperly. It seeks not its own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth." In verse 7 it says, "Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never fails. But if there are prophecies, they shall fail. If there are tongues, they shall cease. And if there is knowledge, it shall vanish. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect comes, then that which is imperfect shall pass away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see as though a glass dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in parts, but then I shall know even as I also am known. So now abide faith, hope, and love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. You see, in 1 Corinthians 13, 7 and 8, though, it says, love, if you want to add that to that, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Obviously, love never fails. Now, I want to narrow in on those words for just a minute, and I want to apply them to fathers today, to apply them to men today. Now, if you, this applies to us all, obviously. But I want you to be given the opportunity, if you have the privilege of sowing into a father or encouraging a father, I also want you to be able to encourage these things. See, I'm telling you guys this morning that heroes are indeed real. And so I believe full-heartedly that as we become more deep in our faith, more connected with God, as He begins to work within us, these things are going to become more prominent in our life. These things are going to become more real. These things are going to begin to move outside of us into our relationships, and most importantly, with our interactions with our spouse and our interactions with our children or our grandchildren or our stepchildren or even our nieces and nephews. Sometimes we gather kids to ourselves that might not have come necessarily from our own seed. And so when I say love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, and that love never fails, the first thing I want to give you guys, I'm going to give you guys some Greek words today. The first word is stego, which means to cover or a covering. So when the word bears, when the word bears is introduced, bears all things, that word literally means, in the Greek, it literally means to cover or a covering. Built within this word, stego, is the concept of protection. Exactly as a roof protects or shields or guards the inhabitants of a house from exposure to the outside influences of weather. Now, I know that a roof cannot protect you all the time, but I do know that there are elements that are outside that can affect you. One of which became very clear to me late last week when we are sitting or sleeping in this I don't even know how to define it. It was like 4 plywood walls with a door and a metal roof. It was a yurt or something, I don't know, with bunk beds, which I almost fell out of. But we went on this rafting trip, and I went with these kids, which was fantastic. Mosquitoes everywhere. I mean, just absurd amount of mosquitoes. I thought I was going crazy. And so we go into this shelter, if you will, and by, I don't know what time it was, but all of a sudden there was this torrential downpour of rain. I mean, it was loud. It was crazy. And it's just beating on this roof. And then I'm like sleeping or trying to sleep, and all of a sudden, I wish this roof had been able to block out the sound. But there was all of a sudden this little itty-bitty insignificant leak. And not any ordinary leak. For whatever reason, this leak saw it fit to drop right next to my face. And so it didn't fall on my face. But, like beds in these kind of situations, there's the vinyl beds, these things that, people are in that environment are really dirty, so they need to be able to wipe them down really quick. But it's the kind of bed that when a water drop hits it makes that distinct, irritating, nails on the chalkboard, I want to run away kind of sound. And as if it weren't bad enough, okay, I like things to be in sequence. So like if I'm going to hear a drop sound or a like if I'm going to hear that, at least let it be on rhythm, or at least be rhythmic of some kind, like at least be sequential. No. I mean, it was just like drop, 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 and I'm just like, oh, I'm losing it. I'm losing it. And then just as that stopped making so much noise, there was another drop somewhere else in that whatever you call it. And so, where am I? Oh, yeah, that's right. Stego. It helps you. It's a protection that is vital for the survival in most climates. It's a place to prevent awful things from happening to you. I know that in our area specifically, things get really, really, really cold. And if people didn't have houses to live in, they would literally freeze to death. They would literally freeze to death. I know that storms hit and things happen in this area alone. You know, we don't really experience the huge sun-scorching heat necessarily, but we do experience the bitter harshness of winter. And when we think of this word, when we think about bears all things, we need to think like this. We become a reflection of God as we bear things, as we protect. So the phrase bears all things could be translated this way. Love protects. Love shields. Love guards. Love covers or conceals or safeguards people from exposure to dangerous things. And so as a father or as an individual who is very, very committed to the Scripture, when we see this text right here, when we see Paul speaking of love bearing all things, we need to think about the word stego. We need to think about the fact that God is telling us to be a protection as He protects. Love believes all things. Now, the word believes is actually the word pisteo, or pistei. Oh, I pronounced this earlier correctly. Pistii, I don't know. It sounds weird to say that first part because it sounds like I'm cussing. Which is the Greek word meaning to put one's faith or trust in something or someone. This is a never give up kind of attitude. This is the belief with God's divine interacting, things will turn out for the very, very best. In light of this, the Greek phrase could actually be taken to mean believes the best in every situation. Now, don't misunderstand me because bad things happen. We're living in a world, we're living in a culture, in a society where awful things happen to us, but we know that the Scripture says that all things work together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. Now, that is a complicated verse to fully understand, and sometimes when bad things happen, we don't always see what the end result is going to be. And there are times when we're completely blind to those things. It was horrible losing my father when I was young. In fact, on Thursday of this last week, it's been 29 years since my father has passed. And every year as Father's Day draws close, every year as that date becomes more and more and more real in my view, it affects me. However, God has used that situation for His good. God has used that experience. Not that He did that to me. My dad made his own decisions, but it has actually given me opportunity to minister to a certain kind of struggle that people have. Heroin is awful. And because of those experiences, I've been able to communicate with people the awful thing that heroin does, what it feels like to have a family that has been shattered and affected by drug addiction. And so when you say that love believes all things, you believe that every day is a new day. You believe that God can do more. You believe that God can redeem every situation. So as a father, emulating the Father in heaven, you are believing all things. You are believing that something big or something powerful or something significant can come from this. Maybe the phrase believe all things could be translated this way. Love strains forward with all its might to believe the very best in every situation and every person. Love believes, or love is confident of the fact that even when your children do things that you never expected, when you've been affected by those things, when you've been hurt, not thinking that this is ever going to turn out right. Not thinking that this situation could ever improve or this situation could ever get any better. I know that children and I know that family around you make their own decisions, but that does not mean that you can't pray and believe for bigger things. Believe that God can work out those things, that God can move in profound ways. There is something significant about believing in your children. A lot of people just talk down to them and tell them, you got to do this, you got to do that, instead of saying, I believe you can. I believe you will. I see who you are, and I see who Christ is in you, and I am confident of the work that He's going to do through you. Believe in what God will do. Be a speaker of that. Be prophetic in your conversations with your family, with your kids. Love hopes all things. Love hopes all things. The Greek word hope is elpidzo, which depicts not only a hope, but an expectation of good things, just paralleling that believing in good things. That means that rather than assuming failure or bad result in someone's life, this kind of love of God always expects the best. Always expects the best. Maybe translated in full, love always expects and anticipates the best in others and the best for others. I want the best for my kids. You know what I want? I want my children to progress farther, so much farther than I ever thought or believed that I would. I want to be that step. I want to be that boost. I want my children to excel farther than me. Someone could turn the fans on. I don't know if you guys are warm, or turn them on higher. I want to push my children to more. I want to allow myself to be the springboard. I want my children, my dream and my hope is that my kids go farther than I ever could have. I want more for them. I want to believe more for them. I want to be that person that says, this is what God can do. This is the God I want you to believe in. This is the kind of God. Turn it all the way till before it clicks. It's confusing. It's kind of like backwards. There you go. I want to see my children. Like I want to be that trampoline, if you will, or I want to be the one that they stand on the shoulders of and go higher, go farther, become more. I want to anticipate. I want to sit back in my old age if I live that long and say, wow, look what you did, God. Look what you did, God. Why? Because I hoped in all things. That love always expects, that I expected, that I anticipated. And next, love endures all things. Endures is the Greek word hupomeno. It is the word hupo, which means under, and the word meno, which means to stay or to abide. Or maybe translated this way, love never quits, it never surrenders, and it never gives up. Love never quits. It never surrenders. It never gives up. Love is going to be that stubborn in the appropriate way. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to pray, and 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 I'm going to trust, not in my own abilities or my own giftings or how good of a father I think I am. I am going to pray and to pray and to pray, and I'm going to be stubborn to speak life into my children, to believe the best in them. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to believe that God is going to take care of the needs. I'm going to be stubborn in that I'm never going to quit. I am committed here. I am invested here. I am going to participate. I'm going to be involved. I am going to speak life into them. Even when I'm exhausted and I come home from work and I've spent all of my energy. It may not be as much as I hoped, but you better believe that I'm going to try my hardest to love them unconditionally. You better believe I'm going to try my hardest to speak things that encourage, to hug, to kiss, to embarrass. Sorry, Grace. I'm not going to say anything, though, because I promised I wouldn't. Fight it. Fight it. Sorry. No. I'm gonna be, just like, I'm gonna plant my feet in there. I'm gonna plant my feet in there, and I'm going to go at it with everything inside of me, because this kind of person knows he is where he's supposed to be. He has therefore decided that regardless of what ties come against him, he is going to stay put, and he is going to refuse to move. He's not going to run away. He's not going to run out. He's not going to abandon or evacuate. He is always, always, always going to be there. If we were to compile all of these things, the Greek words and all the phrases could be translated together this way. It would read, love protects, love shields, love guards or covers. It conceals and safeguards people from exposure. Love strains forward with all its might to believe the very best in every situation. Love always expects and anticipates the best in others and the best for others. Love never quits. It never surrenders. It never gives up. Or as verse 8, the very beginning, so clearly expresses it, love never fails. I want to be that kind of dad. I want to be that kind of dad. I want to be the kind of dad who bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And it's tough. It is tough. It is so hard at times, not just for dads, but for anyone living today. This world can wear us out. This world can knock us down. This world can sap our confidence. This world can make us believe that we're less than, that we're not good enough, that we'll never make it or will never amount. I decided a long time ago that my first calling, more than anything other than standing on stages and preaching to people or sharing with anybody else, my first calling, the very beginning stages of my experience of God telling me that I was going to ministry, He very clearly told me, your first calling is to be a husband and a father. And I've committed myself to that. I have not at all got it perfect whatsoever. I have to apologize a lot. But I get back up and I go at it again. I get back up and I push forward again. I get back up. I get back up. You see, love awakens ordinary men to become heroes. Love awakens ordinary men to become adventurers or storytellers or singers of songs. Another word we use for these kind of men is father. I don't know about you, but I want to be a hero. I want to be an adventurer. I want to take my kids to places that, not like on cruises to different lands or whatever. No, I'm talking about adventuring right where I am. Going out into the, out into the backyard and playing around and dancing and pretending. I know fairies are weird, but my smallest just loves the idea of fairies. She puts little doors in the wall, even though those doors don't open. And, if it's an inroad, if it's a possibility, you know, if your child is going to tell you over and over again and try to explain to you the plot line of a book that you're like, I don't get it, all right? Be that adventurer that engages anyway. Or your other child, I'm speaking of my children, or your other child tries to explain like coding a computer. I mean, that's like a little more my thing, but my Liberty, man, she goes to town and she's like coding video games and, you know, she's like creating Minecraft stuff and building like robots. And I'm like, what? We ran around with sticks when I was your age. Sure. Okay. You know, or when when my son is like just all in the Legos and building churches and building the temple of the Old Testament out of Minecraft and in his tablet or whatever, or telling me these like ridiculous things that he learned somewhere. You know, like, I'm trying to think of like some of the ridiculous stuff he's learned. But, telling me stories about animals or dinosaurs or whatever the case may be. Be an adventurer. Jump in there. Engage. Experience. Be the storyteller. Be the singer of songs, even if you cannot keep key for the life of you. My children love to sing. Be that person. Be that person. Be that hero. Be that hero. Be that hero. I've always felt this way, and I will always feel this way. If we want culture to change, it's not in legislature, it's not stepping into government buildings, it's not pushing for certain votes, though those votes need to happen. It is not necessarily picketing and yelling and screaming and trying to push people to change. If we want cultures to change, our homes is where it starts. You will change the world if you invest in your children. You will change the world. That's why Billy Graham himself said fathers are one of the most unsung heroes of our day. That's why it's critical. That's why it's important to speak life into our kids, because we are raising up the next generation, the next people who will fill those roles. There are kids growing up right now that will run government, that will sit in the position of president. There are children right now that are growing up that will fill our pulpits in our churches. We are raising up a generation right now that will affect the world. Sow into them, believe in them, have a confident faith in a love that never fails, an agape love that will change them and in turn change everything. There has been no greater experience in my life than to see my children respond to the gospel and accept Christ into their heart. That has been the most delightful and amazing of things. And I've seen some pretty cool things happen with my children. It is wonderful. So dads, be an awesome dad. Not because you aren't. I really believe that you are. When Christ is in you, when His Holy Spirit is working in you and through you, I believe that you can and you will. I believe it. I believe it.